Today we're talking about family life. I'm glad to see you all. Thank you for coming. So, our topic is the causes of conflicts in the family. We're talking about this and we're going to analyze these causes now. The first cause of conflicts, strange as it may seem, is a person's lack of energy. Most often people suffer in relationships not even because they don't understand each other, although this is a very colossal, important reason. We're going to talk about this too. Most often people suffer in relationships because their psyche works wrong. It's directed in the wrong way. I'd like to talk about this first. Very often people get nervous in relationships because they don't have the strength to build these relationships. They don't have the strength. So there are several reasons why this is so. I'm irritated by a loved one, or I don't feel love from them, or I don't trust them, or they don't understand me, and so on. All this means just a few points that need to be discussed, and then we'll move on. Because it's also important to understand the nature of men and women. This is very important because often men don't understand how a woman's psyche works. Women don't understand how a man's psyche works. But most often it doesn't even come to this understanding because there are some serious reasons that can't allow people to be together. That means that they just can't stand or tolerate each other. I'm going to gradually explain these reasons to you one by one, but before doing that I would like to briefly tell you how the human psyche is structured. I use the Vedic treatises for this. I like Vedic knowledge very much because my practical experience confirms it, and since I'm still training to feel the human psyche. And I also feel how it all works, how it's written there. Our psyche has three structures. There are three main structures. According to the Vedas, the human psyche is alive. It's not just a combination of nerve impulses, it's like a separate body. The subtle energy body is called Linga Sharira in Sanskrit. Sanskrit is the language of the Vedas. So it's a body. And moreover, this subtle energy body doesn't die when the physical body dies. One interesting person, Dr. Moody, wrote a book called Life After Death. I recommend you to read it. He's a professor and doctor of medical sciences. He studied the borderline state and conducted his work with cardiac patients. Some of these patients entered a state of clinical death. And all who entered this state, about 150 people, I don't remember the exact number, but approximately so. About 40 people remembered themselves at the moment when neither the cardiograph nor the oscilloscope showed any signs of life. Well, that means there was no reason to believe that a person could perceive anything at all, because it was pure clinical death. And so, as all the devices were synchronized, there was no doubt afterwards that this person saw everything from above. They said that they saw themselves, and all the surgeons from above, they heard what they were talking about. They saw what was happening during this time for about 5 minutes while they were clinically dead. Of course, this person gave testimony when they were brought back to life. Well, the idea is that all these testimonies indicate that the person did not disappear completely. They didn't feel like this. On the contrary, at some point they began to feel themselves, regained consciousness but already above themselves. This coincides with the descriptions in ancient Vedic scriptures. It is precisely described how the soul leaves the body together with the psyche. It doesn't come out alone. There is a soul, and there is also a subtle energy body, and it leaves the body together with it. While it's leaving the body, it doesn't remember itself. And when it comes out, it remembers itself, but already from the outside. That's why, when Vysotsky learned about the Vedas and Bhagavad Gita during his trip to France, he made up the song, "The Hindus invented a good religion. When you kick the bucket, you don't completely die." But by the way, all religions talk about this, that when you kick the bucket, you don't die completely. Christianity, Hinduism, and Muslims, they all think so. All religions and faiths think so. It's not just Hindus. The idea is that in this subtle energy body there are three parts. The first part is called the mental framework, or the part where our mood, our thinking, our fate is located. There are human senses there, or we call them sense organs. For example, eyes are a sense organ. There are also feelings. They have a subtle nature, and the sense of sight doesn't die. That means a person sees themselves from above at the moment of clinical death, as if with the same eyes. In fact, it's subtle vision, not physical, because their eyes are closed at this time. So there are feelings, and there are sense organs that we need to distinguish. The human mind can be called in many different ways: subtle body, subtle mental framework, or manas, or simply mind. The mind owns a sensation, all the sensations of perception that we have. Let's say, I think I am in a good mood. I have a feeling. I feel. All this is the activity of the mind, and it also gives energy to all internal organs. It connects the physical body with the subtle energy body, and all the organs of our body are nourished by this energy. People often say, "I feel bad here." A person says, "I feel bad here in my liver." And there's no disease at all, but they feel bad. Feeling bad here means there's not enough subtle energy there. This energy of the mind doesn't flow there sufficiently for some reason. Or a person says, "I feel bad there." That means this feeling bad cannot be diagnosed by any doctor. There are no spasms, nothing. These are, well, precursors of disease because the human psyche doesn't supply the body with enough energy of happiness. This energy in Sanskrit is called prana. Well, if there is not enough of this energy, then a person becomes ill, and therefore the psyche or the subtle energy body of the mind or the mental frame of a person is constantly busy looking for the energy of happiness. Every person wants to be happy because this energy goes not only to our body and makes it healthy, it also goes to our relationships. Because according to the Vedas, the human psyche or this subtle energy body of the mind doesn't end with me. Just now we were talking with a woman, and she was saying that she can't forget about her husband who left her, and this memory is a function of the mind. Memory actually means that a person has contact with someone. Memory itself is like tentacles that seek this contact. The function of memory is never illusory. It always turns on specifically. For example, if I remember someone, it means I had contact with this person. Whether they feel it or not, whether it's conscious, is another question, but the contact itself definitely exists. There are certain connections between people. This connection is in the area of the heart. And that's why we even express this thought in songs, but in general we don't fully understand it. As it's sung, for the sake of high love, we are obliged to remember that our loved ones are connected to us for life by an invisible thread. By an invisible thread. Well, that is, we are connected. How to define this? Very simple. This invisible thread is such a mental structure through which the energy of happiness flows from one person to another. And let's say a mother worries about her child because they are sick. This means that the energy of happiness, the subconscious energy of happiness, is not enough to cure their illness. Illness means a lack of the energy of happiness. As soon as a person lacks it, they raise an alarm, and immediately this energy comes to them from all relatives. And let's say there are two options. Now you will raise your hands. There are mothers whose children got sick, but they have no worries. They don't feel worried. They feel that everything will be fine. Raise your hand if you have experienced this. This means that the illness is not severe. The diagnosis has already been made, and the illness will pass quite quickly. The second option, the child is sick, and the mother has worry in her heart about this illness. Raise your hand if you have experienced this. This means that efforts need to be made, meaning the illness is more severe, and your energy of happiness is not enough for them. Or let's say, you worry about your loved one. Something is wrong with them. This means the thread has started to break. Either fate has affected it this way, or they have started to cheat. It's impossible to understand immediately, but a person feels that they are losing someone, as if something like this is happening. Well, everything seems normal externally, but in my heart I feel that something is wrong, and it never deceives. This means that at this level of the thread, a process of destruction is taking place. You see, there is such an invisible thread. Everyone knows about it, but they don't fully understand how it works, because unfortunately no one is doing such scientific analysis yet. Well, in general, maybe there are no possibilities because it's impossible to measure a person's subtle energy body in any way, although they are trying to do it now. Because the energy that is the energy of the mind is so subtle that no wave system, no waves can even come close to it. And what is now, let's say, measuring a person's aura? These are just contacts of the mind's energy with the physical body. During contact, a wave effect occurs. This wave effect is now being measured by everyone, leading to statements like, "You have this kind of aura. This supposedly indicates your strength." But this is complete nonsense because the subtle energy of the mind itself is so subtle and so powerful that it's beyond human comprehension. If waves could really affect the mind, we would all be insane by now because of the density of waves present in the atmosphere now due to mobile communications and other factors. It would have been simply impossible for a person to think or have some kind of mood. People would be completely suppressed. Yet these electromagnetic waves do not affect our mood and our thoughts at all, since the mind's energy is billions of times more subtle than these waves. We are connected to others through these invisible threads. We have fate, which constantly stresses us. This means we carry deep memories of our actions from this life or previous ones. We don't live just one life. While I may not be able to prove this to you now, we are eternal beings. It is easy to see. We inherently don't believe that he will die someday. Trust me, it's simply impossible. Most people, even when saying, I won't exist someday, don't truly believe it. We are eternal, we cannot not exist. We feel this in our hearts. That's why we don't want to die, because the very idea is alien to us. Life operates in cycles in this world. We even see that atoms have their own life cycle, and electrons too. They rotate around the atom a certain number of times, and then the cycle ends. Scientists have already learned this. But they can't understand that humans also live in cycles. When a day is replaced by night for us, this is a small cycle in life. There are larger cycles. There is childhood, youth, maturity, and old age. This is also a cycle. We see this part of the cycle. We don't know anything about the cycle when a person rests and recovers from life and then enters the next life. We don't know that the time comes, we sleep and rest between lives, recharging for the next, just as we sleep at night. Everything goes in cycles. These cyclical movements are driven by the energy of time, which ages everything around. There are two types of physical aging, gradual and cyclical. In the first case, we should gradually age. If it were so, everyone would die somewhere around 190 years. However, people die earlier because there is also cyclical aging. That is, unexpectedly, a person starts to have health issues but doesn't understand why. Often people start to invent explanations. They say, I've been jinxed or cursed, or attribute something else unusual to themselves. In reality, this is simply the influence of time. The time comes when it becomes physically harder for a person to live. Then the time comes when it becomes physically easier to live. Everyone can feel this. For example, a young lady in a green dress. You are now going through a bad cycle related to health. Do you feel it, lady in the first row in the green dress? Do you feel weakness and lethargy? This started about 4 months ago and will end in about 3 months. Everything will be normal again. Your work ability is reduced. You feel it's hard to live. At such moments, a person must perform certain actions to counteract this evil influence of time. Otherwise, it can cause trouble. But that's another question and a topic for a separate lecture. I just explained to you that such a thing exists. Time also affects a person's psyche and the subtle energy body. This influence is also twofold. A person's psyche has an energy of difficulties. With each unit of time, the amount of difficulties increases in our life, not because these difficulties accumulate, but because getting rid of these difficulties requires greater force. Consider a small child. The outflow of difficulties from their fate and heart is very slow. This is why, firstly, time seems very long in childhood, and secondly, the child is always very happy. Although a child may even be sick, they feel happy, and everyone around also feels strong happiness from the child. This is why children are loved by everyone. If now, let's say, we take a child and put him or her right here, no one will look at me, even though the lecture is interesting. Everyone will look at the child because they radiate more happiness. This will be even more evident once I grow very old, because children emit a lot of happiness. That's why people want to give birth. But over time, the number of difficulties per unit of time coming out of the heart increases, and it becomes harder and harder for a person to live as they grow older. Additionally, there are cyclical outputs of mental difficulties besides this gradual one. There are also periods of time when the psyche unexpectedly becomes powerless and de-energized. This cyclical outflow of difficulties is one of the main causes of divorces, because people mostly have a primitive understanding of what love is. They think love is when the person who is next to me constantly pleases me. I feel great with them. As soon as it stops being great, why should I live with them? This is how people perceive love. It is a real fact. What do they dream about as a result? I want a person next to me who does not just please me, but is capable of super please me. This is the dream of my life in general. You understand that everything in this world happens for a reason, right? Same goes for the energy of enjoyment which arises between people, because people need to be brought together. Therefore, there is a force that first brings people together. They enter a phase of a honeymoon. It feels great for them to be together. But this doesn't mean it will be like this all their life, because this energy ends. People must learn to develop happiness in relationships through their own efforts. The art of doing it is another question altogether. It's a separate topic of conversation, how to do it. So there is a cyclical influence of time that unexpectedly de-energizes a person. Please raise your hand honestly. Who doesn't feel happiness from their loved one right now? as if it's suddenly gone. Well, you miss in the fourth row. Yes, you. It started for you, that's right. You're going through a bad period. It started strongly just 2 weeks ago, and not too strongly about a year ago, maybe 8 months ago. This strong influence, similar to the one of the past 2 weeks, will end in about 3 weeks. Please understand that the not-so-strong influence is related to your lack of understanding that you need to change the very idea of relationships. Currently, you're waiting for happiness to flow effortlessly like before, but now you must work on it. Who else raised their hand? Yes, you have a classic case. A bad period started about 4 months ago, right? You feel that love has disappeared. It will appear again in a month and a half. But people just break up at such moments. They think it's over. You know the joke? An old lady comes to the doctor and says, "I can't urinate." The doctor responds, "How old are you?" 80. Well, that's it. Your urine is finished. It's the same with you. What's there to live for now? Love is already over. It's not over. Time just acts in such a way that now it has taken love away from you. You will see that it will return suddenly in a month and a half. People often break up like this, and then suddenly love comes back again. They think we rushed it with the breakup. The next mental structure that you need to be aware of is called self-worth. This mental structure strongly governs relationships. Self-worth is about me and about how I feel. In reality, I don't feel myself as a soul. Only saints feel themselves as souls and eternal immortal beings. That's why saints are not afraid of death. We feel ourselves as mental structures, not as spiritual beings. Our mental structure is called self-esteem. This mental structure directs the movement of our efforts in life. How does it direct us? We have, for example, a desire to breathe, a desire to eat, a desire to live, a desire for family, a desire for children, a desire to work, a desire for an apartment. They come from fear, from the fear of life itself in this world. Desires which stem from fear generate a sense of self-esteem that attempts to protect itself from dangers. This sense of self-esteem is called false ego. It means that it's ego but false. Why false? Because it leads a person into a state where they deplete and ultimately destroy their fate. From a short-term perspective, this is a good thing. For example, if I want to eat and consider this desire as false, ignoring it may be to my own detriment. If generally you don't want to eat, yet you're more or less okay, you're breathing, eating, and healthy, then you should use your intelligence to activate your true ego. This means thinking, I want to make someone feel good, I want to love other people, I want to take care of them, and so on. Why? Because the activity of the true ego creates an exchange between people. The psyche begins to interact actively, making a person strong. For example, if a girl, rather than simply dreaming of marriage and waiting for the right person, actively starts to take care of others and care for people, she builds the strength of her true ego. This strength leads her to beauty. When a girl takes an active life position in relation to love, caring for everyone and treating everyone kindly, loving people in general and rejoicing in them, this means she will likely get married very soon because her sense of self-esteem is correct. It becomes a sense of true self-esteem, not false. What does false self-esteem look like? She's unhappy and sad. Sadness and longing are eating me up. I'm the only one who's not married. Sorrow, misfortune, and suffering from loneliness create feelings in men that repel rather than attract. These evoke absolutely no happiness in them, not at all. The same goes for men, like in the song, Malvina has gone, my bride Malvina ran away to foreign lands. Who would want that? When someone is caught in a state of false dignity, they start to grieve, suffer from their loneliness, and behave passively. They become unhappy, tormented, and lonely. A person can spend their whole life like this. When a man transitions to a state of true dignity, he becomes brave, joyful, happy, and cheerful. A man becomes attractive and brings happiness. When a woman is caring, kind, loves everyone, and adores people, she immediately becomes beautiful. Some women say, I'm simply not beautiful, Dr. Torsunov. If a person is born a woman, she can be beautiful regardless of her facial features. What truly matters is that the energy of love acts through her, making her beautiful. There are even songs like this. I watch her walk away. There's nothing special about her, but I keep looking. Can't take my eyes off her. As her sense of self-worth grows to be correct, she becomes beautiful for someone. When a man behaves with dignity, he becomes handsome. This is how a man's sense of self-esteem works. Ladies, do you find men with these qualities attractive? Do you like it when a man asks not to be sad and not to say goodbye, but to come out and meet him? Don't you think it's great when a man has such an attitude? Isn't it great? But for a man to reach this state, he has to make an effort. Naturally, only a false sense of self-esteem lives in us. It's natural for us to always want to be grumpy in life. Women fall into anxiety. It's a common thing for them to worry. Men start to engage in demagoguery. Then these two communicate, and that is how their happy family life goes. It's clear that there will be no happiness in such a family, and it will sooner or later fall apart, because people lack a basic understanding of what human beauty is. When a man mumbles and grumbles, argues and engages in demagoguery, he's not handsome or attractive to a woman at all. In fact, he's repelling. When women start to worry excessively, they're not beautiful either, they're unpleasant. We must learn to be beautiful, that's a starting point. If you don't make an effort to be beautiful around your loved ones, they will never be happy with you. Even a dog can be beautiful at times and at times not. My friends who live here always greet me. Today I went out to greet their dog, a big German shepherd. If it bites, you'll lose a few fingers right away. When I approached, it recognized me and stuck its muzzle out to me. I patted its head and it was so happy. It didn't engage in demagoguery with me like, "You're a stranger." It simply greeted me kindly. I was very happy even though it's not a person but just a dog. It was like, "Pet me." It even stuck its muzzle through the fence. "Please pet me. I love you. I remember you." I come home from work after a long, tiring day, and I hear, "Vanya, look at the acrobat. Look how he spins." "You get so worn out during the day, you come home, and there you sit," Vanya replied. When a person comes home in a bad mood, they're very tired, and their sense of self-worth naturally drops. Today I drove 6 hours from Ufa by car, arriving visibly displeased. Why? Because I was tired. It needs to be understood that when a person comes from work, they are tired. What can be expected from them? No love, no sense of self-worth can be expected from them, as they are completely worn out. Or if someone is sick, even a dog that's sick might bark constantly, and a sick child cries. We don't blame the child for being capricious. It's simply because he's sick or hungry. Certain things need to be understood. Sometimes self-esteem gets disbalanced due to serious circumstances, and it's impossible to communicate normally with a person. Self-esteem exists in several states. The first state is called humiliation. Usually it occurs when a person strongly expects something from another, and it doesn't come. The very act of expecting something from a loved one is a very dangerous thing. It's best to act differently. Expectation leads to the destruction of relationships. Remember this and write it down. All scandals and arguments stem from expectations. Why do people argue with each other? Because someone doesn't do what is expected. That's it. There are no other reasons for conflict. There are no other reasons for a conflict or scandal. The only reason is because my expectation was not met. But if you don't expect anything from a person, you might ask, then why live with them? That's a good question. Ask yourself that, because, as it turns out, there's another reason to live together. If a person activates true dignity and begins helping their loved one, then sooner or later, they will experience either gratitude or insolence from their loved one. When they experience insolence, it's not terrible either. Let's say a wife cooked for her husband. He ate and said nothing. She says to him, "Listen, do you realize that I made an effort? I cooked for you." He says, "Listen to lectures. This is what I'm destined for by fate. I should be fed like this. I went to an astrologer, and my chart shows good food." That's it. She says, "Oh, is that so? Well, then let the astrologer feed you." A little later he comes to her and says, "Listen, I was wrong. It's not that I'm entitled to this, but you are trying, and that's why I'm so well fed and happy." There are two instances of incorrect sense of self-esteem. The first is humiliation, and the second is pride. An incorrect state of self-esteem destroys relationships. How does pride manifest? We think, "I'm like this and she's like that." We value ourselves much more than others. There's no sense in this. One should be humble inside, but not humiliated. Self-esteem implies a strong position. It means we behave modestly and don't demand anything for ourselves, but at the same time, we are not humiliated. We are dignified and happy, but not demanding. Being demanding is another feature of a false sense of self-esteem. A demand, give me, means a person is not self-sufficient. Questions immediately arise. How to be self-sufficient? I got married to experience happiness from my wife. Should I now not want anything from her? Please realize there are two types of happiness. Happiness expectation leads to the destruction of the family, while happiness service leads to revival. You need to switch your approach. If you're expecting something from your wife, shake it off and simply start doing good things for her. Then she will react with gratitude. If she didn't react with gratitude but reacted with pride, then educate her. There are two ways to love. One way is to serve, the second is to educate. Sometimes people only serve but don't educate. This means that they are humiliated, their self-esteem drops. Others only educate and don't serve. Their self-esteem has gone up and they have become proud. In both cases, when self-worth is low or high, love between people doesn't flow. The invisible thread isn't filled with happiness and people live unhappily. The reason is lack of knowledge about how to behave. Often people think, if I behave proudly, he'll understand that he's wrong, but he won't understand anything. He will either be humiliated or go to war with you, that's all. In order for him to understand, you need to behave differently, and that's why we've briefly explained this now. Let's move on to the next structure of the psyche, which is called intelligence. The word understand is actually related to this structure. Every person has intelligence, which is responsible for their knowledge and for the ability to receive happiness outside of fate. Let's say, according to fate, happiness is not meant to be now, but a person activates their intelligence and through intelligence receives happiness outside of fate. That is, this is the victory over fate. A person receives happiness, although it's not meant for them by fate. Astrologers say, you're not supposed to have it, so to speak. But you say, I activate my intelligence and overcome fate. And the astrologer says, no, it's impossible. When you hear this, you should take your money and leave. It means the astrologist doesn't understand at all how this life is structured. In a person's fate, there are two things. One is predetermination, that is, a certain difficulty or a difficult period in life, and the second is victory over the difficult period. Let's say you're having a bad period now, you are experiencing coldness in your relationship with your husband. But if you start to serve him and take care of him, then, through gratitude from him, this coldness will be melted, and you will feel love from him. This will happen when you start serving him yourself. You might say, why should I serve him if I don't experience happiness from him? I'm not inspired to serve him. This is what intelligence is about. A person's knowledge makes them do what doesn't inspire them. Let's say, I'm not inspired to get up early in the morning. However, I have the knowledge that I get up earlier. My life expectancy increases. Well, to a certain extent, of course, earlier doesn't mean at 3 a.m. Then I force myself to get up and test this. I see that it's true. Life becomes better if I go to bed earlier and get up earlier. This is how intelligence works through knowledge. But for knowledge to come into the heart, experience is needed. Intelligence features a number of functions. Activity aimed at cognition is one. The next is studying the purpose of life. The purpose is what brings happiness. There is also a higher purpose of life, which is called faith. In other words, the highest purpose of life gives such an amount of happiness that when a person feels really bad, they turn to it in order to receive this happiness and come into balance. It's interesting to know that human intelligence cannot work when there is violence. Let's say your child brought home a low grade. You tell your child, I told you study well or you'll be punished. The child whines. And you think, why is he such a fool? He doesn't understand. To understand, intelligence needs to be activated. But intelligence activates when a person is calm. If the child is calm, you can explain, and they will understand. But if the child is tense, they won't understand, simply because intelligence doesn't work. That's all. There is a mental structure that should work normally. For instance, a woman's intelligence is by nature very pure and sensitive, so a woman is good at foreseeing danger. She is naturally good at orienting herself in what is right and what is wrong. A woman distinguishes well between good and evil, between correct and incorrect knowledge in her heart. Her intelligence is very sensitive. Ladies who come to a lecture for the first time, please raise your hand. Who's here for the first time and have never listened to me at all? Are there any who never listened and came today for the first time? Now you will listen to me and you will think. Because you're a woman, you'll be thinking, is it right or wrong? Right or wrong? You will now be probing me. This is normal. This is how female intelligence works. It thinks this is right, this is wrong. That's how female intelligence works. Male intelligence has a completely different nature. For it, strength and experience are the main things. Strength and experience. Men who are here for the first time, please raise your hands. Men who are here for the first time and who have never listened to lectures at all. Men listen to me for the first time and evaluate. They look at me thinking, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, fool, or not a fool, fool, or not a fool, fool, or not a fool. Their understanding works like this. What is he talking about? That is, men look with skepticism at first. It's their nature. They test the other person, examine them. Women don't test. They simply try to understand. Is this true or false? True or false? Now, women who have already listened to my lectures and came here because they liked it, when they listen to lectures, they listen like this. They absorb everything and then come home and say, that's it, we live differently now. That is, they absorb everything, build a certain system of values, and then act strictly according to these rules. The female intelligence has a concrete schematic nature, meaning a woman has absorbed everything, she understood everything, and she will always do exactly that. That's it. This is her, so to speak, life scheme. Male intelligence, men who have listened to me, if they like it, they look at me and think like this. They listen to the lecture and think, I know this is clear, I need to figure this out. Maybe I don't know this, but I need to figure it out. This is clear, I know this, and so on. That's how they listen. Then when a man leaves the lecture, his wife asks him, did you like the lecture? He says, yes, it was okay. Everything is clear. I know all this. Yes, I liked it, but some things are unclear. I need to figure them out. And the woman thinks, listen, what's wrong with you? It was a new lecture for you. What do you know, really? You don't know any of this, she says. She simply doesn't know how a man's intelligence works. It works like this. If a man has experience in something, he agrees. If not, he checks. A woman doesn't check anything. She just accepts the knowledge because she feels that it's true. A man cannot feel this way. His intelligence does not have sufficient sensitivity and purity. He always needs to check. You see how different we are. Moreover, the activity of intelligence in a man is manifested in the forehead area. For a woman, this is a very sensitive place. The activity of intelligence in a woman is manifested in the heart area. For a man, this is a very sensitive place. Willpower, determination, purposefulness, courage, the feeling that you know competence, all these are functions of intelligence. Imagine, for example, a husband says, I'll explain everything to you now. He activates this center of intelligence, which is associated with logic, determination, assertiveness, and willpower. For a woman, this is a very weak mental spot. He starts explaining to her. What is happening to the woman during this time? Everything tenses up and she feels like, I don't understand anything. What does he want from me? I'm tired of listening to him. I'm leaving. Why? Because it's very difficult in general. Even thoughts stop when a man behaves like this. Even if she wants to think and to understand, she can't. Now, ladies, is this correct or not?
Yes, yes.
Men, can you imagine? That's how it is. Now, women, you'll be surprised too. When you want to explain everything you understand better to your husband, you activate his emotions because it's natural. For example, if I explain to a girlfriend and activate emotions, she understands me better. Now I approach my husband, I say, listen, let's go talk. He says, listen, maybe tomorrow? I'm tired today. She thinks, why doesn't he even want to talk to me? She calls her friend instead. Simply because for a man, this is a very sensitive zone. When a woman activates emotions, he can't listen to her. Now, what is a quarrel? It is when a man tells her something. The woman feels tension here. She gives him emotions to the heart. He mumbles again. She throws a tantrum. Then they both go crazy. Their intelligence turns off and they start yelling at each other. The reason is that people simply don't understand how the human psyche is structured. A woman needs to have everything explained very carefully without pressure. For example, how do I explain to my wife that the dishes are dirty in the kitchen and that they need to be washed? You should know that a woman, any woman, is in terrible conflict with any pressure from her husband. She has long since declared war on this. For example, if a man says, the kitchen is a mess, she thinks to herself, oh, how nasty of him. What right does he have to offend me? Right, ladies, am I correct or not?
Yes, yes.
She has already endured this violence for so many years of life. And then what? What to do? Then it's a hopeless situation for a man. A man doesn't like mess, so he pushes. He does it unconsciously. What should be done? I approach my wife. First I pray, I calm down. Everything needs to be calm. I don't care anymore whether it's a mess or not. I'm not attached. I approach my wife and say, listen, tell me please, what should I advise to my friend who asked me a question? He doesn't know how to ask his wife to wash the dirty dishes. I say, please advise me on what to say to him so that he doesn't fall into a state of conflict with his wife. She explains to me. It doesn't matter what she said. But from this moment on, the kitchen will be clean. I mean ours. Because women's conscience works very strongly if you don't push them. In principle, a woman doesn't even need to be explained how to do things right. The main thing is that she feels, through her conscience, that this is so. This works especially well when a woman has heard something somewhere in relation to another person. Once my wife came to me and said, "Listen, I saw how my friend talks rudely to her husband. I think I behave exactly the same way with you." She was in such terrible repentance. A revelation has occurred for her. I think to myself, my goodness, is it really not clear? Why are you asking me about this? Everyone knows that you behave rudely with me. I thought to myself, what a surprise that she finally realized that fact. But I said to her, "My dear, you have never behaved rudely with me." She said, "Thank you." Now, if I had said yes, it would have been a terrible mistake resulting in a complete defeat in the relationship. She would have never approached me again and opened her heart. She would have never talked with an open heart to me again. She would have understood that I'm not the person with whom she can speak confidentially because I hurt her after that. Do you feel it, men? In relationships, it's not truth that's important, but love. If you treat a loved one with love, they will understand this truth themselves, without problems. This is how you should behave with a woman. This is called respect for a woman. If there is no respect, there is no relationship at all. Everything starts with respect. How is the mind structured in women and men? There is intelligence, right? It either works or it doesn't. The first child was smart, the middle one was so-so, the third was a complete fool who was not smart. Not smart means intelligent, that is. Smart means one reads a lot, studies a lot, remembers a lot. This is how a smart person is. An intelligent person is one who didn't read about not smoking but simply doesn't smoke. They don't remember that they need to do exercises, they simply exercise. An intelligent person is one who is able to turn knowledge into action, not one who simply keeps it in mind that it exists. This is intelligent. There are many smart people. They can even be doctors of science, they know everything, but they can't change their lives. They're called smart Alecs. Intelligent people are those who learn something, a little, and immediately change their lives. This means an intelligent person. Only an intelligent person can be happy. A smart person won't be happy because they ruin their life with this excessive knowledge. In Chinese philosophy, this is called filling a jug to the brim. There are jugs with clean water, very good ones. You pour from the jug and drink. There are also jugs that are filled with junk. There's so much knowledge of all sorts, but you can't pour anything in or out. There are also leaky jugs. That is, you pour in there, and everything leaks out from below. A leaky jug means that a person doesn't believe in anything. This also indicates weak intelligence. Intelligence has functions of faith and doubt. Both are good functions. If a person doubts and checks, it is normal. If a person simply doubts, it means weak intelligence. First, you need to check. If a person doesn't want to check anything, it means they simply have weak intelligence, that's all. The function of doubt is important. Intelligence also sleeps and wakes. When a person goes to sleep, they turn off their intelligence. That's why a person can't force themselves to exercise in the morning. You need to turn on your intelligence first. Intelligence is activated through sound. There is a rule. Some say, count to 10 and then get up. But it's better to simply say a prayer several times and then get up. When a person reads a prayer in the morning after waking up, they activate their intelligence. Intelligence activates willpower, determination, ability to act, to be happy, and to be cheerful. It reconfigures self-worth and the right rhythm for the actions. Intelligence does this. It activates the knowledge that it is enough sleep now, and I should get up. This knowledge tells a person to stop complaining, stop being lazy, and stop talking nonsense. Behave properly. This is how reason works within a person. And knowledge in women has a collective nature, shaped by public opinion and popularity, whereas in men it has an individual power. In other words, if a man is touched by knowledge in his heart, he uses it. A woman uses knowledge if everyone around her knows it, if others feel it, if everyone, or at least her friends, shares that opinion. This means a woman relies on collective consciousness while a man relies on individual consciousness. For example, a woman might say to her friend, "Let's go for a run tomorrow morning." And the friend says, "Sure, let's go." Then when they wake up, they feel embarrassed not to go because they made a promise. A woman's conscience and sense of shame strongly influence her reason. Now, if a man calls another man and says, "Let's go for a run in the morning," and the other man agrees, they might both end up sleeping in. Why? Because they're men, and they don't feel that same sense of conscience. A man's sense of duty activates when he himself decides it. He thinks, "I'll go for a run tomorrow morning," and if he does it for himself, then his conscience kicks in. He thinks, "Why didn't I get up? I want to," and he pushes himself. See, we're completely different, very, very different, and this is important to understand. So we talked about the reasoning of men and women. Now let's talk about the mind. You see, a woman's psyche or mind is very sensitive. A woman reacts to everything. She notices everything and cannot forget it. For instance, a woman remembers all her husband's mistakes and cannot forget them. That's the nature of women. These things bother her when her husband behaves incorrectly. She finds it hard to process. That means that she can't accept it. It's like a woman's psyche is very prone to worries, and she constantly needs stability in life, and she sees this stability in male psyche, because a woman's psyche is very mobile. A woman's mood changes constantly, while a man's remains steady. When she's with her husband, his steadiness calms her, making her own psyche align with his. She likes this. A woman's psyche is filled with the energy of love, while a man's is filled with the energy of will. When a man is close to a woman, he feels this energy of love from her, which relaxes him because he often lacks love, just as a woman often lacks will. Therefore, it turns out to be a plus and minus. Minus is female nature, plus is male. Therefore, a man should constantly inspire his wife. Don't be sad. She will constantly be sad, but not with her friends. When she calls her friend, it's la la la, and she feels better because women recharge their mental energy through other women. Everyone recharges somehow, and women recharge through friends. Sometimes through children, through parents, she can charge, but not through her husband. However, she wants him to recharge her battery, so when her husband comes close, instead of chatting away, she shows a sad face, wanting him to cheer her up, but he might think she doesn't love him. This is a misunderstanding. Why doesn't a woman put on a happy face for her husband? She does when she's in a very good mood, but generally she shows him her true mood so he can help improve it. For example, if her husband comes home tired from work and she approaches him with a bad mood, expecting him to make her happy, he might respond, "Why are you unhappy?" Then she might say, "Why are you talking to me like that?" And an argument starts. She's unhappy because she expected him to make her happy, while he expected her to bring him the energy of love. She simply doesn't have the energy of love today. She's in a bad mood today. Men can't understand this either. A woman sometimes has the energy of love and sometimes doesn't. And since a woman fills the whole apartment with the energy of love, and from this both children and parents receive happiness, everyone receives happiness from a woman's energy of love. Even pets, like the dog and cat, pick up on the moods from the woman. Imagine how much love energy she must have to fill everyone with it. Everything and every living being in the home receives this energy of love from her. Naturally, when she runs low on it, she feels dissatisfied, like everything is going wrong. The children get cranky, and the parents seem unhappy too. She feels no joy and thinks, "My husband will help me." He comes home tired, and she looks at him thinking, "He won't help me." But because she believes in him, she's ready to let him know what she feels. This is where the difficulty of life comes in. We don't understand each other. When is a woman unhappy? It's not because she doesn't love you, it's because she's waiting for you to make her happy. A man doesn't make her happy not because he doesn't want to, but because he's tired. Egoism means only seeing our own problems and difficulties. We don't see or feel each other's minds because we're waiting. Remember this, when we wait for happiness from a loved one, we never truly see them, but when we serve them and give them happiness, we begin to truly see them. A student once approached his teacher saying, "I don't like that other student of yours. What should I do? I can't stand being near him. We live together in this monastery." The teacher replied, "Start serving him." The student asked, "Serve him? What would that do?" The teacher said, "When you serve him, you'll see his gratitude, and through that gratitude you'll come to know him." So he began to serve him, and they became friends. At first there was no connection or compatibility between them. He simply served him with effort, and the other was naturally grateful, creating a bond. Through this, he started to understand the other person's fate and character. Even though they had no natural compatibility, he had to keep serving him to maintain a good relationship. In family relationships, it's different. Compatibility exists, or else they wouldn't be together. But effort is still needed because there is also egoism. The more expectations people have of each other, the more this invisible thread between them weakens. It is filled with disappointment. Don't become infatuated, and you won't be disappointed. Expectations come from infatuation. People fall in love and feel strongly attracted to each other, expecting it to last forever. Now they think it will be like this all their life, but love as we know it isn't entirely within our control. There are two types of love energy: the love energy that belongs to God and the love energy that belongs to humans. This human love is also divine, but granted to us. What is human love energy? When I act kindly toward a loved one, they respond with gratitude. And again I show kindness and they feel gratitude. Then they act kindly toward me, and I feel grateful. This mutual exchange is what we call love between people. But infatuation and the feeling that it's good from them, this is not human energy. This is God's energy. And God does this to glue people together, and then God holds this thread between them. We may want to leave someone but can't because there is attachment. This attachment is divine energy, and God uses it to bind people together. Now, if I break that bond myself, what have I done? I have angered the one who held us together. When a woman breaks this bond, a coldness fills her heart as a result. A woman has two types of beauty. One type attracts a man's physical desires. This is outer beauty, which she can enhance or tone down. She might put on lipstick and present herself attractively, which stirs a man's desire, a wish to experience happiness from her body. But this desire in a man never creates the desire to marry her. However, there is another kind of beauty, one that comes from the heart, which is independent of the woman herself. She either possesses it or not. She can feel it too. If her heart is cold rather than warm, she senses it. When a woman radiates warmth from her heart, it inspires a man to want to live with her. Marrying her brings a sense of responsibility, the desire to protect her, and so on. And a woman who cruelly leaves her husband ends up with a cold heart. Even if someone is drawn to her, he doesn't want to officially marry her and lives with her in a civil relationship without taking serious responsibility. Why? Because there's no foundation. God has forbidden it. She must first repent, understand that abandoning a loved one is wrong, and then she can find a close partner in life. For a man, it's the opposite. When he leaves his wife, he feels a strong heat in his heart. This heat brings about an intense infatuation with someone new. He falls deeply in love, but then he loses his self-respect around her because intense infatuation diminishes a person's dignity. She, on the other hand, becomes proud, and this imbalance grows stronger. In the end, she will leave him harshly. Why? Because that's how fate works. When you leave, you'll receive the same in return. But since family happiness is more of a labor for a woman and a reward for a man can easily get his reward. The question is, for how long? But a woman remains alone for a long time because for a woman it's more beneficial to live a family life than for a man. A woman gets more happiness from it. A man gets development from it. Without a wife, a man is like a pastry with no filling. Men go through 3 stages of development, speaking figuratively. The first stage is the pastry stage. You'll understand this when you see it. The second stage is a tense man, one who is highly strung. And the third stage is a well-rounded or developed man. Truly developed men are never available because they're all taken. 10 women are vying for each one, so it's nearly impossible to win this contest. But there are plenty of pastries and they all fall in love, yet no one wants them even for free because you have to work very hard to be happy with them. Tense men are also available, but they're so tense that it's hard for them to fall in love because they can't relax. To fall in love, you need to be a bit relaxed. So, tense men exist, but they're hard to connect with because they're always occupied. That's life. The purpose of a woman's fate is to take gold from the mud and clean it. She should marry a man, and if her intentions are right, gradually shape him into a decent person. This is the path to a woman's happiness. At first it requires tremendous effort, but then she can eventually relax. Women also go through 3 stages. The first stage is a dreamy, lazy, unhappy, and lonely dreamer. The second stage is a businesswoman, and the third stage is a developed woman. Dreamers don't marry because no one meets their expectations. They look at men, and it's usually the pastry types they meet. They think, well, this doesn't fit my dream at all. At the second stage, the businesswoman, she doesn't get married because everyone is afraid of her, such a businesslike woman. She scares men away. That means it's scary to get involved with such a woman because she's independent. Men by nature want someone who depends on them, who will always be supportive, but she is so self-sufficient. How can they live with her? The third stage is a well-rounded woman, joyful and humble, eager to help others. Women like that are rare and in high demand. 10 people are competing for each one. This is our fate, and that's why life can be so challenging. You must constantly work on your fate. So what is infatuation? Infatuation is divine energy. People who are always dreaming of infatuation, of feeling good beside someone, are living in illusion. Why? Because eventually you'll have to work on creating harmony, which involves humbling yourself, so to speak. You start serving the other person selflessly, caring for them. At first, this may feel like humiliation, but actually, this is how we should live. A person needs to be courageous, both men and women. Women's courage lies in caring for others, even strangers. You need strength to be brave like that. Sometimes I see this even in service industries where it can feel risky to care for others because people can be selfish and even offensive. I've seen such women. Once when I approached a counter to get a flight ticket, the woman there smiled and greeted me warmly. At first I thought she was just acting because she'd been trained to, but then I realized she's like that by nature, a strong personality. A strong woman has strong intelligence. She forces herself to love people, and they all end up charmed by her. I once saw a flight attendant like this as well. There are many like her, but one stood out. She wasn't young anymore, yet carried herself with grace. When she walked down the aisle, everyone went quiet, like mice. They all looked at her. She moved through the plane, familiar with everyone, helping one person and then another. She loved and cared for everyone, and the whole cabin was captivated. Why? Because she embodied the full, courageous energy of a woman, and people loved her for it. This is how a woman should ideally live. Her strength manifests through her caring nature. So why don't we love each other? Because our connections are clogged. We expected love from each other, but there was none. Or let's say a person falls deeply in love and ends up alone because when someone places all their faith in another person and loves so intensely, they simply burn out that love. This kind of person often gets abandoned because living with someone who falls in love so strongly is just unbearable. It's a terrible state when a person believes in love for another person, not just understands that it's necessary or that life should be built this way, but actually believes in it. Faith is the highest expression of one's intelligence. That means a person stakes everything in life on this. In my youth, I read an article in a newspaper about a man who saved up for a car all his life, and then when he finally sat in the car, he crashed immediately, not because he couldn't drive. He had a heart attack and died on the spot, not because of any strong impact, simply because he realized he wouldn't be able to repair this car. Why did this happen? Because he believed in the car. Back then, owning a car was very difficult. 40 years ago, it was nothing like it is now. He believed in the car, in the same way a person can believe in a woman or a man. When a person believes in a woman, for example, she can never bear that kind of psychological burden. This is because a person mentally clings so deeply to the object of their faith, trying to completely control them. They can't detach from them. For instance, if a man believes in a woman, he won't let her go anywhere alone. He won't let her look at anyone else or talk to anyone else. Raise your hand if you've encountered such a situation in life. This indicates that misguided faith is at work. The husband has misplaced faith. He believes in you instead of God. A person should place their faith in God and serve their loved ones. It is essential to understand this concept because if you don't, everything in your life will fall apart. It's crucial to grasp this. What to believe in and how. What is love? If you think that believing in a woman equals love, then you'll never have a lasting marriage. It will always lead to destruction. Remember the song, I love you but for His sake. I love Allah or Jesus Christ or God, and I love you for His sake. That is also love, but it has a subordinate nature. When a person is stressed, some women say, Dr. Torsunov, I am alone now. My husband left me. And it becomes clear why. Because you placed your faith not in God, but in a person. Such a thing is unbearable. He became arrogant and left you. Now for 5 years you've been unable to remarry, and you don't understand why. You keep thinking about him and can't seem to forget him. Even today a woman asked me this question. The answer is simple. You believe in a person, your faith is misplaced, and your reasoning is flawed. For example, a woman sees a small child and perceives such beauty and purity from them that she's never experienced before. She begins to place her faith in the child. She tells her husband, now we live for the child. He responds, and what about me? Even if he doesn't say it, he feels it in his heart. She senses it too. We're both secondary now. Once I visited a woman when I was a child of 12 years old. She said to me, Oleg, please eat this apple, otherwise it'll go to waste. I replied, how will it go to waste? It'll stay in the fridge for another 2 weeks. She said, my husband will come, and it will go to waste. This shows that the woman loved her children above all else, and this meant she would soon be alone. And that's what happened. Such love is not what a man needs. What kind of life is this? You come home from work, and the apple is gone to waste because the husband ate it. I'm just giving a simple example to show how faith can redirect the focus of love. You know the song, "Gardens bloom once a year. Spring of love is awaited once. Only once do gardens bloom in our souls." Why only once? Because you can place blind faith in a man only once in a lifetime. The second time, you won't have enough madness for this. That's why it's only once a year. You must move forward. If you place blind faith in a man, and your love was so overwhelming that he left you for someone else, you must learn to believe in God. Because faith must be correct. This is also very important to understand. Now let's return to the reasons for family breakdown. The most surprising thing is that there are two main reasons. The first reason, oddly enough, is drained batteries. This means a person leads an unhealthy lifestyle, becomes exhausted, and can no longer invest energy into the happiness of their loved one. A person lives alongside someone for a while and thinks, why continue if I feel no happiness? And then they leave. They leave in search of happiness, but where is happiness? It's found where there is something new, someone entirely new. You might think the new person is better because there's infatuation, but with the previous person that infatuation has already faded. This is how people convince themselves that there is no happiness because they were unlucky. They believe infatuation should last a lifetime, but now they need to learn how to cultivate love through their actions. The most surprising thing is that most people don't even know how to be happy because they don't know how to do it. Happiness can exist in the future, the past, or the present. The very word happiness means living in the present moment. To live in the present, a person must accept their fate. To do this, one must correctly understand how this world is arranged. For example, if God gave me a husband or wife, it's my fate. This means that I did something in the past that resulted in this person being given to me. This must be understood clearly and believed in. When a person believes in their fate, they realize they must face it, not abandon the person, but work to improve the situation. First, they must accept it. To change a loved one, you must first calm yourself. To calm yourself, you must first accept. If you don't calm yourself, you won't even be able to influence the other person because your words will block their reasoning. First, accept the person. Acceptance means believing that they were given to you for a reason, that it's your fate, and that you yourself acted in the past in a way that now causes this close person to make your life difficult. If someone accepts their close one despite their expectations, it can actually become easier to live with them. But people often think, so I accept that my husband is an alcoholic. How will that make it easier? Does this mean I agree with it? No, they say, then he'll never change. This is how people reason. But on the contrary, accepting that he is an alcoholic doesn't mean you've resigned yourself. It means you understand that this is your fate, a form of karmic punishment. From that moment, you don't humiliate yourself in front of him, but begin calmly and kindly working with your fate through him to help him change. Raise your hand who among you did this and your husband stopped drinking. See, there are women who listen to the lectures. How long did it take? How much time, approximately? 3 years for you. And you? 15. Who raised their hand earlier? How many years for you? You see, based on my research, it usually takes about 2 years of working on your fate. In severe cases, like when a man drinks, cheats, or hits, it takes about 2 years for the husband to start changing. And she didn't nag him all the time. She didn't touch him. She prayed, served him, and when he went too far, she distanced herself. She spoke to him kindly about how to live better and correctly. Eventually, his gratitude emerged. She awakened his conscience, and the process began. He started changing because he chose to do so. The ice was broken. Even difficult destinies can be overcome if you understand why this is necessary, because there's no other way to live. If a person refuses to accept their fate, how do they cope? They think, I just need to wait. Tomorrow will be better than yesterday. They focus on the future. This fixation on the future is called living with passion or living in tension. How does such a person live? They think, once I get there, I'll be happy. For now, I'm just waiting. In this waiting, they drain their happiness battery. They arrive and think, once I get home, where it's warm and calm, then I'll be happy. They get home and think, once I get upstairs, then I'll be happy. Imagine how much energy they've already drained. Then they think, when work is over, I'll be happy. They get home, and their wife looks at them and says, where's the happiness? She needs it too. And he thinks, once I turn on the TV, I'll be happy. He turns on the TV and thinks, once the villains are defeated, I'll be happy. When the villains are defeated, he thinks, well, I'll just go to sleep. And so it goes all his life. Then, when the grandkids grow up, and suddenly he dies. This is called living in the future. Such a life drains one's happiness battery. People like this believe in luck, not happiness. Can you see the difference? Happiness is not luck. It's when you've conquered your fate and found happiness in the here and now. You must overcome each moment of life as it happens. People believe that happiness will come on its own someday and nothing needs to be overcome just by itself. And sometimes it happens like that. A really good period of life comes when everything is just naturally good and a person feels elated thinking it will always be good. No, this good period will pass and you'll suffer again. And wait for your happiness again. That means that people who live in such a state, they basically cannot live together. Because they are always waiting for happiness, waiting for it from each other, and eventually they don't wait it out and separate. Because all people need happiness, not only me, but also my loved one. And besides, you need to know that for a woman to make her husband happy, she needs to perform asceticism practice. That means that it's difficult for her to do this always. For example, what is happiness for a man in relationships? What is respect for a man? A woman looks at a man. She should look at him approximately like this. He is the only one, unique, leader, righteous, wise, strong. Is he really like that? That means that the husband is actually completely different. I wanted someone like that, but he's not like that, because every person has flaws. Well, something from this list exists, but it's not enough. It's not enough. And therefore, she doesn't look at him this way. But what is happiness for men? You have to force yourself. The husband came home from work. You'll say, this is hypocrisy, Dr. Torsunov. This is not hypocrisy, this is love. What does love mean? The husband comes from work and says something, and you nod to him, while you completely disagree with everything. Why? Because in this case, you'll at least be able to live normally with him. You'll at least be able to make him listen to you. Because otherwise nothing good will come out of it at all, because this is called respect for a man, looking at him and nodding, looking and nodding. Well, sometimes you say what you think, because if you've already nodded a lot, he will still ask your opinion out of respect. Not that he needs it, but he's kind of grateful, saying, what do you think? And at this moment, you should say very unobtrusively, you know, it doesn't matter what I think, but I want to ask you a question. Is it possible sometimes like this? Not the way you think, but like this? And this will help him very much in life, because if his wife loves him, he starts to listen to her. And he will think maybe it's possible he needs to study this topic. That means that a man won't accept it right away. He will think about it, and this will save his fate. Recently I had such a situation. Sometimes a bad period of life comes even when a person leads a healthy lifestyle, and their body functions can be disrupted. There were spasms in my eye, the right one. I can feel myself having spasms. I feel my body well. I think, I have spasms. What to do? I don't know what to do with this, as it wasn't very interesting to me. I was very busy. These spasms continued for several months. Then I noticed something getting cloudy in my eye. I told my wife. She immediately said, let's go to an eye professor. We'll examine it. I say, I know everything myself. I know what's in my eye. There are spasms. She says, let's go to the doctor. And I think, Lord, okay, she's going to pester me now with this doctor. I say, let's go to the doctor. And we went to the doctor. I was examined by the professor. I knew I had spasms. He measured my eye pressure. It turned out to be very high. He diagnosed glaucoma. He prescribed me drops and said, you'll have to use them all your life, like diabetics inject insulin. I say, thank you, doctor. And I just went away, thought a little, set myself up and found seeds that I put in my ears, right here on scotch tape, on a bandage, and now the pressure is normal. That means that when the bad period ends, the eyes will start working normally again by themselves, and I won't need to wear these seeds in my ears. Why did I tell you all this? Because a woman is her husband's heart. She saves a person in these situations. And this doctor said, if you had come 2 months later, there might have been retinal detachment, and then blindness. Can you imagine how great it is to listen to your wife? Although I was sure that I knew everything, and this is the state of any man. Any man thinks that he already knows everything about his life. But if your wife insists, go and do it, because she is your heart. She feels further than you do because a woman feels her husband's fate. The Lord gave her such inner power. Similarly, a man represents a woman's stability. Let's say a woman already knows how to live correctly. She has listened to lectures, and she says, "We'll live like this now." He says, "Wait, we live like this." And she should listen to him to some extent, must listen, because he stabilizes the situation. Remember, ladies, how many times have you completely changed your life? And how many times has he already fallen into this trap? And how many times have you already abandoned your views, then switched to new ones? A man is his wife's stability. He first checks everything, studies it before accepting any new views. He trusts his wife, studies, then makes a decision. This is how relationships between a man and a woman should be arranged, based on the belief that God gave me intelligence through my loved one, and I don't want to use only my own intelligence, but also the intelligence of my loved one. A woman's intelligence is intuition and purity. A man's intelligence is stability and following the rules that we established in relationships and in life. But the main reason for family destruction is simply lack of strength, and the reason for this lack is the mind's escape into the future or the past. This means that a person is drained and their highest life purpose has been trampled. In women, this manifests as depression. In men, as drinking and partying. That means that a man drinks when his mind has gone into the past, a woman becomes depressed and unhappy, and this means that the very contact with happiness, with the energy of happiness, is impossible, because the word happiness means present. It means now. It means existence in the present. Happiness exists only in the present time, and a person cannot be happy if they are carried into the future or have been carried into the past. Memory resides in a person's heart. Memory is a force that is excited by the power of fate. A person's fate resonates in the heart. The stronger the fate influences, the stronger the memory of it. The more anxiety in the heart, the less a person can distract from it. Memory forces us to chain ourselves to it and lose the energy of happiness, and a person becomes so completely drained that they can't even sleep or eat. This condition is called stress. It can last very long. Memory awakens the past again, meaning it does this forcefully. It's an evil thing, meaning a person is subordinate to memory. Therefore, there are methods described in the scriptures that switch memory to the source of happiness and destroy bad fate. This method is called prayer. A person remembers holiness. Prayer doesn't mean mumbling something according to rules. Prayer is meant for remembrance. When a person remembers in prayer the scripture that they love, or the purity of the saint they love, the holy place they love. Memory flares up, meaning a person destroys bad fate in their heart with this memory. But at this time they actually accept fate, because when a person receives enough happiness in life, they can inhale and exhale saying, well, in general everything is good. So what's the idea? The point is that for a person to enter the present time, they simply lack the ability to contact happiness, and contacting happiness is called inner life. And this inner life is exactly what most people don't have. What is inner life? It's forcing yourself to recharge your batteries. You don't work during this time, don't take care of children, don't watch TV, don't read newspapers, don't listen to news. During this time, you are detached from everything and replenish your strength through a certain action, which people mainly don't want to do now, because they think, why waste time on this? I'll explain now what this action is. So we are finishing this topic, so memory has gone to the past. It has become my evil master, so to say. Now memory has gone to the future. This means that I also cannot accept the present, but believe that it will be better soon. When I pay off my mortgage, then I'll be happy. And what will you do for 15 years? That's the question. And this is actually your most productive life period. What is faith in the future? It's a terrible thing that severely affects modern society. All movies are directed at this. All movies show us that there is this picture. There is this picture of a beautiful family setting. People believe in this Santa Barbara. They really like this beautiful setting, and everyone is kind of going crazy, but everything is still good. So this picture that they show us, that we need to buy more and more to be happy. And to buy, you need to work and to wait until you pay off debts and so on. In general, faith in the future destroys a person's psyche. A person becomes tense, exhausted. So faith in the future has 5 stages. The first stage, believing that everything will be fine. The second stage is hard work. To make everything good, you have to work for it, pay money. The third stage is fatigue. The fourth stage is breakdown. And the fifth stage is either a change in thinking or degradation. One of the two. A person chooses. Either they start living differently, no longer thinking about clothes or apartments, but seeking happiness in something else, trying to figure it out. Or further drinking binge, running away, family destruction, debauchery, drinking or gambling and so on. So it's just madness, insane life, and what is faith in the future? Do you understand this system? So a person believes in this, and then they work hard, fatigue comes. Or as another song says, it's time, let's rejoice in our lifetime to the beauty and the cup. And 40 years later they sing, how many days are left, how to remove fatigue, green-eyed taxi, slow down, and take me where they will always be happy to see me. Do you feel what kind of deception this is? So there is another life. What is powerlessness? I come home, there's no happiness, wife is annoying, I'm tired of children, and everyone has exhausted me, want to be alone, that's it. So a person can't cope and thinks, this family isn't good enough, the children aren't good, the wife isn't good. Sooner or later, a person comes to such a conclusion because they just can't handle it. How long can it last? Why? Because all relatives demand your energy of happiness constantly, every second of life, and therefore hoping that they will give you happiness is complete madness. Even simply because relatives get sick, for example, or they just have a bad period due to fate, and you are connected with all of them by these invisible threads and constantly need to give your energy to them. Either your mother got sick, or daughter got sick, or wife got sick. And women are constantly sick because they are very sensitive by nature. A man thinks that he got himself such a wife that is constantly sick, this hurts, that hurts. Try to understand, when something hurts in a woman, she's not sick. This is her normal state. When she feels really bad, that's when she's sick. When something hurts, it means there's just some kind of disharmony with this world. A woman is very sensitive by nature, therefore a woman has 3 stages of illness. First, she's sick. Second, she's very sick. Third, she's a widow, she wore her husband out, and that's it, he's gone. Because a man only gets sick in intensive care, ladies, remember this. And if a man keeps whining that everything hurts, it means he's spineless, he needs to be woken up so that he gets going and moves forward like a locomotive. He moves to the second stage, which is called strong tension. That's life in passion. You need to wait for the third stage when he starts living correctly. It's not simple. So there are 3 sources of happiness. All of them are connected with God. And let's figure out when and how a person should use them. Otherwise, there will simply be no happiness in life. The first source of happiness is called nature. Strange as it may seem, a person should know that health doesn't come from doctors, nor from ecology, nor from vitamins or pills, nor from the fact that I monitor health, and it comes. Health comes from nature, and all ancient people knew this. For example, good immunity, good digestion, good absorption of substances, good mood, ability to be optimistic rather than pessimistic come from the sun. And now you'll say, we don't have sun in this city. And you will be wrong because the sun has visible sunlight, which, by the way, can be harmful to health. Especially in southern countries, people often get skin cancer. And there is also subtle sunlight. What is subtle sunlight? It's energy that works from within a person, and we cannot understand it from the outside. So subtle sunlight is energy that works through spices, for instance, sweet ones like fennel, anise, cardamom, and so on. Subtle sunlight works when a person actively and joyfully moves in nature. During this time, people interact with the sun, especially in the morning time. And they get charged with this cheerfulness even in Siberia or in the Urals and even in winter, because the sun in winter has its special nature. It's so invigorating, fresh. This solar energy of optimism is winter optimism. As the song goes, winter has opened its snowy riches and everything slumbers here until spring. Only fir trees stand in triangular dresses. This is winter optimism. This is actually the energy of the sun. People often don't understand what the energy of the sun is. You need to know this. It gives a person health. If a person is pessimistic and doesn't move in nature, doesn't believe in nature, believes in their high-rise building and their TV, it means they will never get the opportunity to be cheerful and optimistic. Thus, they will destroy their family. Why? Because nobody needs such a person. No one wants to live with someone like that because they're not charged, they're discharged. And they're not charged because they don't know where to get this energy from. The sun rings like a bell in children's laughter. The sun means joy. In ancient language, it means to give joy. If a person rejoices, they give the energy of the sun to everyone. If you don't rejoice with the sun, it means you will be drained of energy. As one song says, the sun burning with bright flame in the eyes of a loved one. The sun in a soldier's letter from a faraway country. That means that you felt the connection. This is when happiness and luck came into your life. This is the energy of the sun. Golden ears of wheat are full to the brim. When the sun rises high, the grain ripens, and that's why it can only be properly digested at lunch. Neither in the morning nor in the evening will bread digest properly, because any food digests when it ripens. For example, vegetables ripen in the evening. They are digested in the evening or during the day. At lunch, milk ripens in the morning and evening, so you should drink it in the morning and evening. Fruits ripen at sunrise, so you should eat them at sunrise, and so on. Golden ears of wheat are full of sun to the brim, therefore it's a solar product. It gives a person vigor and activity. Bread is eaten for activity, for vigor, because that's its power. I'm just telling you now what the sun is. And there are only 3 ways to receive the sun's energy, just like energy from other forms of nature. I can tell you about this now too. When a person can't relax, can't rest, when a person feels that they have no calmness in life, they lack Earth's energy. Earth, Mother Earth, you see, how to get Earth's energy, you need to love it. Love whom? Love the Earth. How to love it? Like in the song, I'll get off at a distant station, grass up to my waist, and it's good to wander in the fields alone with the past, worried about nothing, nothing at all. And why aren't you worried about anything? Because you love the earth where you were born, the cornflower blue silence. And if you were born in a high-rise building, you still need to learn to love nature. If you don't love nature, then there will be no calmness, no rest, because a person rests through contact with the earth. Another song, and I'll lie down at the edge of the old path and let the fog cover my feet in the distance. I'll lie on the porch and let the fog even cover me. I will rest. Why? Because one loves the earth. When a person loves something, they will never suffer from it. The sun also means seeing purity, joy in everything, in beautiful nature. We have beautiful nature, a beautiful city. We have a beautiful city. One needs to rejoice, love their city very much, love nature, love people. We have good people, and then a person receives the sun's energy. They can receive the sun's energy from people, they can receive it from nature, and rejoice in the frost. Like in the song, blue, blue frost, blue, blue frost, blue, blue frost has settled on the cables. In the dark blue sky, there's a blue star. Immediately the sun appears in the heart. Well, you need to see all of this. And living by the rhythm of the sun is a completely separate topic. If people enter into disharmony with nature, they cannot live joyfully at all. At night, the moon gives a person sleep. Do you know about this? The moon puts a person to sleep. When the moon rises, a person relaxes. It gives love. That's why you should spend time with your wife and children in the evening, because the energy of love is activated in the evening under moonlight. That's how the moon works. And it gives a person sleep, and it also gives the possibility to conceive a child. If you conceive at night, then the probability of conception increases. Moreover, if you conceive in the morning, a sensitive child is born. If during the day, a sickly child is born. If in the evening, a child may have a tendency to mental disorders, but a child conceived at night is a healthy one. Everything should be done according to time. That means everything should be done correctly, according to time, because nature itself helps you. Food is best digested during the day because the subtle energy of the sun digests food and absorbs it. All healing happens in the morning. If you decide to heal at another time, you won't succeed. Because when the sun rises, that's when a person heals, and when it sets, that's when they calm down, and the body won't fight anything during this time, because when the sun sets, a person relaxes. That's why in ancient culture, people didn't even fight each other when the sun was setting. They stopped the battle. But that's another matter, a matter of combat ethics. So in the evening, a person has more opportunity for exchanging love, because the moon rises. If a person doesn't sleep at night, they can't rest. You need to sleep to rest at night. You can sleep during the day, of course, but when the sun rises, it has an impact on your brain, and you can never relax, release tension, because the sun creates tension. It energizes, gives vigor. When the sun rises, birds start chirping, roosters start crowing, rejoicing, everything rejoices, all of nature. Even the wind starts blowing. At night there's silence and the wind is still. Then the wind starts blowing in the morning when the sun is about to rise. Birds start singing, roosters crow, but we sleep. So what happens during this time? We simply enter into dissonance with the sun, and this heat turns into illnesses. All inflammatory processes in the body occur because we don't live in harmony with the sun, because the sun is the healing force itself. It heals a person. If a person enters into harmony with the sun, let's say they're sick, they need to follow a daily routine, as doctors say, then you'll be healthy. You need to wake up early, go to bed early, eat abundantly at lunch, relax in the evening, work during the day, pray in the morning. because morning is meant for spiritual work, daytime is for physical work, evening is for relationships with loved ones, which is also work. You see, there's time for everything. And if you live by the rhythm of the sun, it will become even brighter on earth because we are in harmony and we have more sun energy, more energy of joy, more life. But if a person is in disharmony, works at night, sleeps during the day, then what kind of love will there be? Love means energy, no strength, no love. When a person lacks harmony with nature, they don't like the weather. Winter is bad, it's too cold. In summer it's too hot, rain is too wet, wind is too unstable. This means that a person lacks contact with water energy. Not water itself, it's not that you need to swim in water, but simply you don't love water. That means you lack love for this element. You should love this element. Like in the song, nature has no bad weather. Every weather is a blessing. Every natural phenomenon should be gratefully accepted. This is what entering the state of happiness is about. That means I'm walking in the rain, I accept it, I get happiness. You say, but it's radioactive, Dr. Torsunov. Well, if you think like that, then it's a complete disaster. Then nothing is possible. You go to the doctor who says, you have excessive contact with the sun, you can't be in the sun. You have excessive contact with earth, you can't be on the ground. You have excessive contact with air, breathe less often, you have excessive contact with water. Then there won't be any health at all, my dears, because health comes from nature. Our batteries are charged from the elements of nature. We are not being separated from nature. We are completely merged with nature. Understand that this is why people move to live in villages when they have money. Because this is normal life. When there are pine trees, earth around you, and you breathe all of this, you gain health and happiness in relationships, and you feel great. When people sing about love, what else do they sing about? They always sing about nature. Because the energy of love, the energy of happiness, the energy of joy is found in nature. That's why all songs are structured this way. If a woman says, I can't talk to anyone, I want to be alone, I have body dysfunctions, my cycle isn't working properly, I'm constantly crying, this means there's no contact with water, you have no harmony with this element. I have fatigue, no concentration span, no attention, I can't think clearly, I can't work at all. It means there's no contact with air energy. Go get some fresh air. I'm afraid of catching a cold. That's exactly why you catch colds, because you're afraid. Go outside, love the wind, love the air. You'll never catch a cold. A cold means disharmony, lack of contact. That's why people practice freezing water swimming. A person dives into an ice hole. They're in complete harmony, and everything's great, and they're healthy. But if you get scared while diving, then you'll get a different result. You shouldn't be afraid of water. Similarly, a woman gets scared of a man. Women are very fearful by nature. For women, fearfulness and fear are the main feelings of inadequacy in this world. Disharmony with this world leads to fear. And for a man, the main inadequacy is that he feels he can't overcome something, can't handle it. That means a man is born for victory and a woman is born for love and harmony. A woman thinks, oh, men, they're all somehow so difficult. Yes, they are difficult. Or a man thinks, women are so emotional. I can't deal with them. Yes, they are emotional. So what should we do? Accept. You need to accept a man. When a man grumbles, accept it. When a woman whines, accept it. Because otherwise there won't be any happiness in life. You'll be alone, end up alone. A woman strongly strives for comfort. If she's found comfort in her solitary life and she thinks, well, everything seems okay, she'll never get married because comfort is more important to her than living with this fool. That means that she saw some flaw in the man she's dating and thinks, I won't marry him because it's uncomfortable. But you need to go forward, not be afraid of discomfort, otherwise you'll remain alone for a lifetime. Often women remain alone only because comfort is more important to them than family. Now men are also thinking, oh, I won't have a relationship with this woman, too many emotions, constant whims. No. So you'll end up alone because all women have whims and you'll just be lonely. Accept the person, go into battle, don't be afraid of anything. Life will help, God will help, you'll manage. The purpose of human life is to become stronger, both for women and men, not just to live well. We need to understand the purpose of human life. This is also important. This is the essence of our difficulty in relationships. So most people are powerless. We have a battery. How to charge it? There are 3 ways. This all means desire to live, or asceticism practice. A person who doesn't want to practice fasting, doesn't want to practice stationary position of the body, and doesn't want to engage in prolonged, continuous movement in their life always reduces their life expectancy. Because only in these three states does a person receive energy from nature. When a person is fasting, nature itself enters them. Have you noticed that during fasting it becomes easier to breathe? Everything becomes better in nature. Everything becomes beautiful. Have you noticed? Because during fasting energy enters, energy flows. You're charging your battery. If a person walks or runs continuously for a long time, they start charging their batteries, becoming energetic, happy, cheerful. Or a person doesn't move for a long time, staying still. People often don't understand this, but at all religious events there are rituals where a person doesn't move and stands frozen during the service. This is called yoga in India, but it doesn't have to be called yoga. There are simply Christian services where people stand still and so on. When a person doesn't move, they also get charged during this time. Remember, the problem is that we don't get charged because we don't do asceticism practice. In the past, people had to fast naturally because there was nothing to eat. Naturally, they had to stay still because there was such a necessity. And naturally, they had to move for long periods because they had to work. But know that if a person is walking, meaning they're going to the store for bread and thinking about bread, about needing to buy it, they don't receive health benefits. To receive health benefits, you need to be happy about people, happy about nature while moving simultaneously. And at the same time, you shouldn't force yourself to move faster or slower, but just move calmly as you like. If you're running, run as you like. If you're walking, walk as you like, and don't strive for anything. Wish happiness to everyone. Enjoy nature. During this time, your battery gets charged. Rule number 1. The main reason for family breakdown is fatigue. Try to understand this. Catch yourself in your heart. Try to diagnose yourself now. You simply have nothing to give to your loved one. You have no energy, that's all. And it's the same for them. You think they're any better? The same thing. This means people live with each other in fatigue. That's why they separate, because there's no strength. If there was strength, they would forgive, accept, and so on. There's no strength because we act from a position of false ego. And how do we interact with nature passively? We came to the forest. Well, we came. We go to the forest, Dr. Torsunov. Great. You came to the forest, chopped wood, gathered mushrooms, made a fire, cooked and left to watch TV. Did you interact with nature? No. Because to connect with nature, you need to detach from yourself. You need a feat. You need to go to the forest and say, I wish happiness to everyone. Oh, it's somehow boring. No, I don't want to love nature. I don't love it because we've already become dull. We don't know how to do this. We need to learn. Learning to live means to be joyful, to move, to fast, and so on. Want to know the practical side? Here you go. 80% of undiagnosed infertility, where everything is normal with both women and men. Children aren't being born due to reduced ability to move. Just start moving in nature, and you'll cure infertility. And infertility is one of the main causes of family breakdown. There's a connection, and there are many such connections. Don't believe it? Those who have difficulties, raise your hands. People are shy. Well, okay, you'll come to me, I'll talk personally. All right, the next cause of family breakdown, besides what I told you about living in the future and past, not being in the present, and being unhappy as a result. Happiness doesn't come because we also live in an imbalance with this world. We don't follow a daily routine. Happiness doesn't come because we don't love nature. We've grown unaccustomed to it. We love our cage in which we live, our TV, but they don't give us health. The forest gives health. You'll say, there's no nature here. We live in the city, Dr. Torsunov. There's nature in the city too. Go outside. There's fresh air. You'll say, it's polluted. That's okay. My uncle lived in the most polluted city in Russia, almost the most polluted. It's Chapaevsk. There was literally nothing to breathe there. I've been there. Well, you can breathe normally here, but there it was impossible to breathe at all. And he simply loved his work. He spent his whole life crafting furniture, and he loved his work. He rejoiced at people and life, and he was never sick. He lived a long life. There was nothing to breathe in that city, but he loved to walk and breathe. Because when a person has a positive attitude, they only absorb the good, and the bad doesn't get absorbed. Let's say someone is bad, but you look at this person and see the good in them. Do you want to live with a good person or a bad one? Of course, with a good one. For example, do you see the bad in your child? Of course, you only see the good and you love your child. You simply don't perceive bad things in the child. Another example, when I lived in Moscow, I used to go for a run in the city. I lived in the center of Moscow. To go somewhere to nature, I would have to travel at least 30 kilometers in any direction. and it would take 2.5 hours to get there. And so I just ran in the morning right on the streets and felt wonderful. Why? Because there is good air everywhere. There is air everywhere. The question is only what you're set up for. Enjoy nature. There are also trees in the city. There are parks. There are gardens. There are good people. By the way, this is the next aspect of health, relationships with people. Walking down the street, what is one usually doing at this time? Just walking sad or being all miserable. But during this time, you need to love the city, love people. Otherwise, you won't have any life at all. You'll keep getting divorced and divorced, divorced and divorced. You need to force yourself to live like this. Otherwise, it's like in the song, I'm the water spirit, I'm the water spirit. No one hangs out with me. All my friends are leeches and frogs. Oh, my life is like a tin can. I don't even want to mention it, but I want to fly. You just need to tune yourself correctly and understand how life works. It's important to understand what life is. Being nasty and miserable, that's not life. It's very important to understand that many people simply don't know how energy or power works in this world. For example, there is divine power and it comes from nature. It gives a person health. Divine power coming from people gives a person all kinds of happiness in relationships with people. All kinds of happiness are God's energy coming through people. The Lord acts through people. Women ask me, Dr. Torsunov, how to get married? I answer, you need to sweep a man off his feet with your feminine power. There's no other way to get married. And how to sweep him off his feet? For this, you need to accumulate power. And where is this power? It's in your desire to love people and care for them. If you cultivate this desire and constantly care for everyone, keep caring, then gradually you become more beautiful, because feminine energy of beauty is the energy of care. Remember this. When a woman gets herself going, she stops living in a dream and starts living from the position of intelligence, becomes active, rejoices in everything, wishes happiness to everyone, then she becomes beautiful. First, men just start paying attention to her, but no one approaches. Then gradually they start approaching, but not the right ones. Then the right ones start approaching. And further, it's important to continue being happy, cheerful, independent from a man. If you met a man and immediately went to bed with him, he's no longer interested. His love disappears immediately. And his love will grow stronger if you don't pay attention to him at all at first. You say, well, okay, let's take a walk. Well, okay, let's talk. And so on. You're happy by yourself, self-sufficient, you love everyone, care for everyone, and he thinks, yes, I need such a wife. And he says, why aren't we kissing? She answers, prove that you love me. That means that a man must show strength, determination, and responsibility. And eventually he understands that he'll marry her, and then he'll get what he wants. This is how a woman should live. If you allow a little bit more, he will no longer be interested. And he says so listlessly, well, okay, let's get married. And the result is civil marriage. That's it. He's no longer interested because he got what he wanted and he doesn't need anything else. But a woman needs a family. A man also needs a family, but he doesn't know about it at first. And a woman must prove this to him with her feminine willpower and how to understand that the man is ready. As one song says, I remember your black eyes. I'm dying. I only dream about you. That's the situation. When a woman behaves in a worthy manner, everyone is happy. The man also sings this song with pleasure. Why? Because that's how the world works. Only a strong person wins in this world and becomes happy. And strength is based on faith. You need to know what to do. When does a man become happy? When he takes on the burden of life in this world. A man is like a Christmas tree on which ornaments are hung, and the ornaments keep getting more and more numerous. First, there's one fragile ornament so thin, doesn't need anything at all, and its name is wife. He doesn't know yet that she's attached to her parents, and therefore he'll have to deal with them too, because a woman is very strongly attached to her parents and can't do without them. He doesn't know about this yet, but will soon find out. He doesn't know yet that other people will appear from her and you'll have to deal with them too, because these will be your children. He doesn't know about this yet, but will find out very soon, and so on. If a man accepts everything, children are born and he endures, works, she relies on him in everything, because a woman is naturally born for happiness, and a man is born for victory, and he is given the opportunity to win. Nobody is against it. A woman can do many things by herself, like my wife when she goes swimming alone. She can go into the sea and swim, no problems, but when she's with me, she holds my hand and is afraid. She says, all these waves, it's so hard. I say, let's go, my dear. And she likes so much to relax next to her husband. That's how a woman's psyche is designed. Because women want to relax next to a man so that he strains himself and then they give him love. And that's exactly what he needs, love. And when a man strains himself, he becomes healthy, strong-willed, cheerful. That means he gets so many good things if he strains himself. He starts to overcome his fate. But for a man to strain himself, he needs to do so much with himself. One man asked me, Dr. Torsunov, how to stop being a couch potato. I'm already exhausted. I said, what do you do? He said, I exercise and do this and that. I said, good job. Soon you'll become handsome. Soon women will notice you. Everything will be fine. He said, okay, I got it. It's very hard for a man, because a man's psyche is designed in such a way that he either lies on the couch or fights. He can't just live day-to-day life. He needs some kind of feat. And when the family is already dying, no money, he says, okay, I go to work. That's it. Where? Wherever God gives an opportunity. Thank God, the wife thinks. Otherwise, he won't go to work at all. Everything is fine. Why would he worry? That's how a man's mind works, and there's nothing you can do about it. A woman's mind always wants to relax. It's her nature. A man should know that a woman first inspired him to do morning exercises, but this doesn't mean she will always do them herself. You got inspired. That's it. She can sleep peacefully. You tell her, do exercises with me. She says, do it yourself. I'm tired. Women are allowed this, but men aren't. Men often envy women. The husband tells his wife, do your exercises. He envies the female body. He thinks, it's unfair. She gets to relax while I have to work hard. The wife tells her husband, go to work. Why are you sitting at home? Yes, she can go to work, but then the energy of love in the family will end, and as a result, you will be unhappy, tense, and no one will help you relax. A woman should maintain cleanliness. She should cook. She should love everyone, by the way, your relatives too, because otherwise you won't maintain relationships with them without your wife. And all this requires energy. She needs to talk to everyone, to all her friends, to maintain love and a good mood everywhere. She needs to feed the neighbors with pies and the dog and so on. This is real work. It takes a lot of energy. And if you don't want to have a personal life, then kick her out. Send your wife to work. You both will earn money. Well, you'll have to look for a mistress because a man can't live without the energy of love. The main reason for alcoholism is the lack of energy of love in a man, and he starts drinking. The energy of love comes from the wife. Why are you pestering her? Give her a chance to relax. A relaxed woman is beautiful, and a tense one is not beautiful. This doesn't mean that women should constantly lie in bed. It won't bring health. Women should run, perform asceticism practice, fasting, but carefully. Women run like geese, step by step, running slowly and becoming healthy. Fasting should also be done carefully. She should practice fasting as much as she can, eating a little bit. No need to worry. This is how a woman stays beautiful. If she strains herself, her hormonal function gets disturbed. Wrinkles appear. A woman shouldn't torture herself. You see, we are very different. A man must constantly protect a woman because she was born for this. She wants to be protected. A man should also know that besides you, your wife is also loved by her mother. A woman builds very close relationships with relatives, and when a woman is born, she first brings happiness to the family and then suffering. They lose her when she gets married. When a man is born, he first brings suffering to the family because he will annoy everyone before he grows up. Then happiness comes when he becomes a man. A man should know that if he wants to keep his family and his wife, he must love his mother-in-law. A man should know that she will still be jealous of you towards her daughter. She'll whine a bit, something won't please her, but with rare exceptions, I just have a great mother-in-law. She says, I love you more than anyone, even more than my daughter. That's what my mother-in-law says about me. But this is rare. Usually a mother-in-law loves her daughter, but not you so much. You represent her life mistakes. The daughter's fate is similar to the mother's fate. And when the mother sees you, she says, anyone but him, anyone but him. Why? Because she already had such an experience in life. She doesn't like it, but this is her fate. Her daughter must also have this experience. Therefore, you need to prove to her that you're a good person. How should this be done? We need to learn such a prayer. My gentle mother-in-law, my caring mother-in-law, young, mischievous, and nimble. Did the men remember the prayer, or should we repeat it again? You need to repeat in the mornings, my caring mother-in-law, my gentle mother-in-law. And gradually you will feel this, and she will change her attitude towards you. You will break the ice between you when a bad period comes in life. That means it's a system that nobody needs, but unfortunately, it works. The system is like that. When a problem arises in a relationship between people, their relatives pull them towards themselves. My daughter, why should she suffer with this fool? I told you not to marry him. She has such experience. And she pulls her daughter to herself. As a result, the family breaks up. Children remain without a father. She doesn't understand this, my gentle mother-in-law. The same goes for the husband's mother pulling her son towards herself, because she loves him strongly. Therefore, she sees good in her close person and more bad in their spouse. It's everyone's duty to learn to love their spouse's relatives even more than their own, and still, you will love your own more, but try to learn to love others more, and then there will be balance and harmony. When due to fate relationships deteriorate in a couple, relatives start pulling their close person towards themselves. You should restore relationships with them, and they'll begin to preserve the family acting in the opposite direction, such is the system. Thank you very much. I wish you all happiness, love, and all the brightest things in your fate. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.